Hello, and welcome to the next episode of It's Your Time to Shine, a podcast about being a mom in a modern world. My name is Jaspreet, and with me is my co-host, Lisa. Hey, Lisa.
Hey, Jess. How are you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. Just woke up from a nap. Don't judge. I know it's 5 p.m., but I took a nap while Ali was watching TV.
Oh my gosh, that sounds awesome.
I do have the life, don't I? She was watching Sophia, and I was trying to watch it with her because we try to memorize the plots because we reenact them later, and I never get them right, and then she gets frustrated with me, and I dozed off. So now I don't know the plot to T for Two. That's the episode. So
That's so funny. Oh, that's so cute.
But I'm refreshed for this.
Very cool. The exciting news in our house is, actually, I'm glad you said no judgment because my child achieved a milestone like way after the socially acceptable time to reach a milestone, but I'm still really excited for her. So
Okay.
Hadgwin learned how to ride a bike.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's so exciting.
How old is she?
She is 9.
That's not late. Isn't that normal?
No, it's not. Most kids learn how to ride a bike like around 5
Oh,
or so.
okay. See, I don't even
But
know. Okay. Anyway,
Yeah, and I mean, and then what is norms, right? Like,
Right.
It doesn't
Right.
matter.
There are a million things she can do that other kids can't. So, yeah.
Exactly. Freaking me out is one of them.
So she learned how to ride a bike.
Yeah, she learned how to ride a bike. So I learned how to ride a bike pretty late as well compared to the other kids in my neighborhood. And I grew up in a neighborhood where like we really played outside. Like every day after school, we would rush, do our homework.
I remember those days.
And I feel like our homework only took like 15 minutes. And then we would run outside. I think my mom like would kick us outside actually and be like,
Yeah.
go get out of here.
Yep. They wanted their me time, and I get it now. And they wanted it all day, and I get that even more now.
Yeah, totally. Or even just like, I think my mom really knew that it was good for us to like
Yeah,
exercise
definitely.
and be in the sun and be with others and stuff. So like I said, I learned a little bit later and I remember like I was pretty much self-taught on how to ride a bike. Like I had the neighborhood kids around that were like, lean this way, lean that way, you know, and I kind of got it. And she learned pretty quickly. But the cutest thing is like every day now she comes home and she's like, let's ride bikes. And I was like, oh, I'm so proud of you. You know, I told her and she said, Mama, it's so fun just to go fast on your bike.
That's so awesome that she's enjoying it so much.
Yeah, it's really cute. It makes me happy.
Like riding a bike instead of being on her, like, iPad or watching TV all day. Not that there's anything wrong with watching TV, but I'm just saying that she's understanding the benefits of being outside and endorphins.
Yeah, totally. And I don't think she doesn't process it like to the endorphins level, but it's so much fun for her. And it's like, there is that little rush, the little adrenaline rush of like, I'm doing it on my own and I'm going fast.
Right.
And for her to experience that and have that connection with like being outside, and being outside is like something that I can really enjoy.
Yeah.
It's so exciting. That's like really cool.
Yeah. And she's not supposed to understand all those technical, but I was going to say, if you want to get technical, what she's getting is a dopamine hit. I'm like obsessed with hormones these days and how they relate to our behavior and feelings.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah. She's getting that hit, and that makes her want to go out more and more and more. And it's a positive way to get that. So versus like being on social media and getting a like, because it's the same hormone. Anyway, I'll stop getting too technical. But
Yeah, that's interesting. The funniest thing is like I have the science degree and you are telling me about endorphins.
I'm only speaking from a user level. I don't know anything about how it works. I just know what works and not why. I don't know. All I know is that I think this is awesome that she's going outside and she's enjoying her bike.
Yeah, I think it's really important. It is really cute to see them. It's interesting that you brought up like dopamine and endorphins and like that tie to like getting a reward for things that you
Right.
do on devices and on technology, because a few of us were talking about that. And specifically, he was saying like, I'm really worried about the effects of being on technology all the time and how it affects my kids. Like he was saying he finds like his kids are moving really fast and it's hard to get them to unwind. And we talked about this in that Sleep Master episode where you were talking about ways to unwind and like helped
Right.
your mind to relax and prepare for
Right.
sleep.
Right.
And so that's exactly what he was describing. Like they're really wound up and then
Yeah.
they have a hard time transitioning into bedtime and doing other things. So
Yeah.
naturally, I told him about the podcast where you were giving, sleep tips. And I told him a little bit about that. But it did raise that question of like, how are kids influenced by technology and devices?
Right.
And then what effect does it have on their lifestyle.
Right.
Not just the choices, they make in the moment, but like how does it affect them?
So I have been thinking a lot about this just because Allie's 3 and I feel like I'm in a place because we know so much more than we have ever known where I can go a little bit into preventative care parenting, if that makes sense. Like we were just talking about how to go going outside and we were talking about dopamines and not to get too technical, but I do think about that a lot and I research that a lot too, like what makes teenagers so moody and why are they even more moody today than they've ever been, and one of them is just exactly what you're talking about is that they're on social media, they're on group chats, and they're not getting the validation that they want. So they get down. Their serotonin levels go down. So then I'm like, what can I do? So I'm really big on Allie not touching that iPad. Like she might be one of the only 3.5-year-olds who doesn't know how to use an iPad, and I'm proud of that.
Wait a minute. So there are other 3.5-year-olds that use iPads like on somewhat regular basis?
Oh my God, it's more than you would ever think. And I'm not saying they all do. I think there are a lot of I think especially now, parents are more and more cognizant. Research comes out every day. There's a news report. So I do think there are a lot of parents very cognizant of this. But with that said, there's also a lot of parents who aren't. And I'm not judging them. I'm really not because I really want to be clear. I think it's because of my personal journey with sleep and everything. That's why I pay attention to this stuff more. I was fortunate enough to come across a book that changed my life. Have you ever heard of the book called Reclaiming Conversation?
No.
Okay, so until then, I was that person. I was always on my iPhone. I was always on Facebook. I was counting my likes. That was me. And I actually, after reading the book, took an honest look at myself and, basically kind of went on a social media phone diet. And that's kind of how it started for me. But if I'm going to be honest, if I never read that book, I don't think I would have been that mom who wouldn't let her kid on an iPad. It's because of this book and the research I started doing after reading the book, or I started building on that book and doing a lot of research. I'm very strict about the iPad. I actually thought maybe a little later because, of course, now Alyssa's starting to ask questions and stuff. So I also wonder how long can I, shelter, I guess, her from all this. And I'm not trying to shelter her. It's just that I want her, like we talked about earlier, I want her to be exposed to other avenues to find that excitement and make that kind of part of her makeup so that becomes what she knows and hopefully as she gets older becomes more of a coping strategy for her versus going online to social media and trying to get likes. Does that make sense?
Totally, yeah. And not to paint the answer with such a broad brush, but this really could apply to anything. It could be like test-taking anxiety. It could be how you learn about new subjects. It could be sexual ed awareness. It could be drug awareness. Like the answer is that there is no one solution. There's lots of solutions and you have to experiment with all of them, right? That's like kind of a generic prescription to all of it.
Yeah, no, exactly.
But I am surprised that children so young would have access to an iPad. My kids, iPads didn't exist. They weren't so prolifically available.
Right.
When my kids were that young.
Right.
Families had one iPad, not like getting an iPad for a specific child kind of thing. That kind of blows my mind. Even if I had the means to afford that, I don't know that I would do it. No, I know I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, see, there's so many programs out there. Like there's ABC Mouse that all the kids are doing. And I did actually notice just a few days ago in Allie's ballet class, this little boy, about 4 years old, he was doing it and very good apps teaching you how to spell. I was like, oh, wow, that's pretty cool the way they show you. Like I could see how they process that and they're able to learn, right? Mm-hmm. But I guess I made a decision as a mom that in the end, and this is all the research I always read, but in the end, wherever you are, your IQ, you're all going to even out by the time you're in kindergarten. So I'm not too worried about whether her vocabulary is 30 words or 100 words less than the person next to her. But to undo your habit of being on the iPad, that is a lot harder to rewire yourself. Do I make sense?
Totally, yeah.
So anyway, I was just saying like one of the things we do that I'm really, whenever she's upset, she actually will say, Mommy, I'm upset. I need to go downstairs. I'm like, that's awesome. Go downstairs. You want me to play music? She goes, yes. I put music on. She goes downstairs. She's listening to the music, her Sophia songs. She's playing Tea Party. And I could see how she's calming down where she has learned that these could be good coping strategies. And of course, after that, I'm like, but we are going to talk about this. And she goes, yeah. I'm like, okay, because I don't want her to hold things in, So I'm big on all this. Again, I don't want to be like a social media, Amish for the social media and not expose my child to social media or to iPads. I just want to do it where she at least learns other avenues, and then later on, hopefully, her temperament, parenting, nature, nurture, she is able to balance it all.
Yeah, no, I think that's totally it. I was talking to Budham about social media and like the dangers of the addiction aspect of it just last week because Bhavneet, my oldest, of course, laid out this whole case. She like did her research and she had all these points.
She's 14, right?
She just turned 14,
Okay.
yeah. And so she's like, her thing starts out like, now that I'm 14, I think I have showed that I'm responsible enough to get social media. And she's like, I only want one account. And she had this whole like pretty well thought out argument.
I think that's cool though that she did that.
Yeah, it was pretty cute.
Because so many kids would be like, I want one because everyone has one and that's just that. But she's like actually sitting and talking to you about it. And,
Well, okay, let's be clear. She's tried that like a couple years ago, but she didn't even have a phone. She did it like, I'm the only one, that doesn't have a phone. So I think she's aware enough to like know her like constituency. She's like, okay, my parents aren't going to roll that easy.
Right. I was about to say she knows exactly who she's dealing with.
Yeah, she knows who she's dealing with. If nothing else, like, I don't know if we've taught her critical thinking, but we have given her the tools of like understanding that the only thing that's going to work is like a critical argument.
Right, with you guys.
So she laid out a thing and I really was like trying to be conscious of not just going, no, I don't think it's a good idea and getting to an answer.
Right,
and so
right.
I was like, oh, okay, I really like that you laid this out, and I gave her some praise, which I don't do enough of, and I'm trying to do more of that, to stop and like appreciate the amount of effort that she put into the preparation.
Right.
And then I said, okay, and something that I'm thinking about is that there is, and I started sharing with her some of my concerns. And one, and I want to talk to you about this specifically, is like there is a greater incidence of depression amongst children of color between the ages of 11 and 21. And a lot of it is a lot of people are guessing that it's linked to social media.
I could see that. Right.
Yeah, specifically like the disparity between your life,
right,
real life, and what you see on social media with celebrities and others. Because to quote one of my colleagues, like social media is like your greatest hits album. And every single thing that you put on there is like your top 20.
Right.
And except for me, that's mostly true because, my greatest hits are actually not hits. And so but when I put them out there, people are like, oh, I'm so glad Jaspreet's like putting her stuff out here because now she makes me feel better about my own life, which is not my intention. But the bar's low.
Well, my greatest hits are no hits because I barely post. I think I posted today after months today. So
yeah. And so I know, I mean, like, and so anyway, I was talking to her about that and I said, that's a concern. And she was like, of course, her response is like, oh, I won't let that affect me. And I'm like, no, baby, it doesn't work that way. You don't make a choice to let something affect you. And so we were just talking about it, but it goes back to that dopamine thing that you were thinking about, right? Like when one of my big concerns about social media, and one of the reasons like that I felt so strongly, and that you and I both felt so strongly about like not having the podcast be scripted, like we just start talking and share our views, right? And like only edit out curse words, is because
beep, 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 beep. I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Is because so much of social media is contrived. Like it's all scripted, it's contrived, it's not real, it's posed. And so I was talking to her about that. I was like, people don't make up things because they want to make up things. They make up things because they think that they have to in order to get likes.
Yeah.
And they probably do because we're inundated with so much on social media that we don't stop to like and comment something unless it attracts our attention or it draws us in.
I know people like nowadays have like a like salary,
Yes. And it can be a lot of pressure especially for a child.
Definitely.
And so, I was sharing that with her. I told her that we were going to think about it, but actually did a great job of like, we were talking about some points like, oh, here's a concern, here's a concern. We weren't saying like, oh, answer them, but we were like making it so it's like more of a discussion point.
Yeah.
So she could talk about it a little bit. And we talked about social pressures on social media.
But that's good that you guys are having all of this discussion with her, especially a
Right,
girl.
right.
I mean, you were talking about minorities, but I would also think girls too. Just
Absolutely, yeah, like the image and
yes.
we were telling her a little bit about pressures, like something that Button brought out that was I thought was brilliant is right now she has access to social media because I have it. And so she's sitting with me sometimes and sees things, or
Right.
I'll even see something and say, "Hey, I want to show you something I saw
Right.
on Facebook," or "Look at this thing on Instagram," that kind of thing, right? So it's not like she doesn't have access to it, but she doesn't have that feeling of like I need to check it.
Right.
And her friends know that she doesn't have it. So there is no aspect of like, oh my gosh, Bhavani, I'm not talking to you because I sent you this snap and you didn't read it for 5 minutes or you didn't read it for 20 minutes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. When people get so upset, and then there's a meme about that. Right.
Yes, exactly.
A true friend responds to you within 1 second and steps away from her present. Didn't you know that? Sorry.
Yeah. Or like
My
in
frustration.
Snapchat. In like Snapchat, there's this concept of streaks, and like kids try to keep up streaks, which means like every day, you respond to each other at least once. And that's like called a streak, and they try to keep that up.
I would lose all my friends.
You would lose all your streaks or whatever.
All
Like
my
you wouldn't have
streaks. I'm
any.
sorry.
No, but like it's funny the
Yeah.
funny ways that social media like they have these little ways that they're gamifying their engagement.
They grab you.
Oh yeah, totally.
Oh my God, I don't have you. I'm sure you've been off the grid a few times, but like sometimes I'm like, you know what? I'm just not going to check Facebook for a while. I'm just not even going to check. I usually check once every few days anyway, right? But if I don't check maybe 4, 5, 6 days, Facebook starts to stalk me. Hey, did you know that you have 7 friends who, did the best GIF of the year? Hey, did you know? Look what you missed this week. I'm like, oh my God. Like I just start screaming at my laptop, which I only check Facebook on my laptop. I took everything off my phone. So, but they're really like concerned. And I actually saw a news report today where if you actually wanted to close your Facebook account, not deactivate, but close, you have to fill out this whole form and it can take months. So I'm just saying they will grab you and they will not let you go. It's like an obsessive ex-boyfriend.
Yeah, I don't know that they're concerned about you. I think they're more like they're so sophisticated in their engagement, like they want to increase it because that's what their numbers are based on, right?
Right. That's what I'm saying. It's not me. It's not Ecta Lisa Vora. Hey, you, we love you. We love all your little one-liners. No, it's about, hey, we want to grab you with this really nice sweater from Revolve. Obviously, I get things from Revolve all the time. And I do get sucked in. Samir gets so mad. It's like, oh, that is a cute sweater.
Yeah, totally.
This is my weakness. Clothes are still my weakness.
The targeted marketing is awesome.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
still, I may check and I'd be like, whatever, I don't care, no likes, nothing. I mean, I don't give anyone any likes. I just kind of look through the news, and then I'll buy a sweater. So they get exactly what they want. So I'm actually one of their favorites. So
And that's why they're sad when you don't visit.
exactly, and that's why they're sad when I don't visit. But okay, so
Yeah.
what is your plan with Bhavneet? Have you talked to her yet?
So we've, Budham and I have talked about it, and we're like, we probably will let her have access to one.
Okay.
We'll pick one channel and let her be on that. And then one of the caveats is going to be that she has to be friends with us as well, so we have access to see her information. A lot of it is trust, and
I agree.
We've talked about this before, and like I trust her. I think she'll be fine. I don't think she realizes how annoying it can be, and I don't think in her world maybe it's not annoying. It's probably because I'm old that I think it's a little bit annoying. But there is an aspect of it that's like we get tired because we have a lot of things going on. For them at that age, that's part of that's just a norm, right?
No, you're right. And it's good that you're actually putting yourself back in those shoes. I don't know if I could do that, but it is because we do tend to forget. You're right. I look at things from my perspective. This is annoying, blah, blah, blah. But it's their whole world. They don't have a bazillion other things going on as far as like commitment, or like life commitment, paying a mortgage and stuff like that. So
Right.
So from their
Yeah.
perspective, yeah. And I actually, and you want to, because I would never also just say no either. I think you have to look at the situation, your kid, how they handle it, and you have to trust them. Because if parents don't trust their kids, then how is the kid going to even trust themselves?
Right.
So
Yeah, I think that trust is an important part of the foundation of the relationship. It's not like I don't say no. I say no like 20 times, 30 times a
Right.
day to my kids. In fact, like I'm traveling for work, and one of my colleagues here was like, "So, what are your kids up to? What are they doing without you?" And I was like, "Having fun, probably."
Well, we know Hargun's riding a bike.
Yeah, she's totally riding her bike. Oh my gosh, it just makes my heart happy when you see
That's
like,
awesome.
and anytime we come home, like, do I have time to ride bikes right now?
But that's great.
It's cute. Well, here's how awesome it is. She fell and she scraped her elbow, and she had like she scraped it pretty good, and then she had two parts where like she peeled the skin off and she was bleeding. And I said to her like, "Oh, why don't you take a break?" And she's like, "No, no, no, I'm fine. It barely even hurts." And I could see the look on her face, like it totally hurts. So I put Neosporin on it and I put a Band-Aid on it and everything. And she was like, "Okay, I gotta go," because there's only 6 minutes left to ride. And I was like, "Oh, it's so cute."
This is probably reminding you and me of our childhood because we were outside all day riding our bikes. That's what I remember
Oh,
about my
yeah.
childhood.
Totally. There was two things that we did a lot, and that was riding our bikes was one, and then we climbed a tree in my front yard, and we pretended like it was our house. Like we had a bedroom, a bathroom. We'd have tea parties, pretend tea parties up there, and it was just so cool.
And I think pretend play is one of the things that's actually starting to get like, it's like being omitted from our existence almost. Like I think we have
Totally,
a
yeah.
natural tendency to do it. Obviously, I can see it with my child. I talk to other moms at her age. It's pretty normal. But that's why I try to foster that. Like I really play with her. And when I say really play, it's the same plot for 1 hour and we do it about 70 times. Okay? But I really think it's so important to foster that. I could see it in her eyes, how excited she is. And I'm like, if I'm all like, oh, whatever, play by yourself, then, I mean, I want to do whatever I can to preserve the stuff that
Right.
we used to do, play,
Yeah.
and at the same time balance it because she's not going to be she can't be an Amish, for an iPad or for social media. So, like you're doing with Bhavneet, just balance it somehow and have your limitations.
Totally.
So,
Yeah. I think there's like a lot that kids learn about themselves and the way that they stretch their mind with creative play. And
Yeah.
in school, I see that there is less art, there's less music, there's less mandatory creative free time. But one of the things that makes me really excited about going forward is like graphic novels and comics being turned into movies. Children who are not exposed to comics as a form of like paper graphic novels now will get introduced to them via movie. And even though the movie part it brings a screen again, at least when the movie's over, they're introduced to like this idea of superpowers and a different universe where other things can exist.
right, storytelling.
Yeah, and then they can imagine that way.
Right,
Because I
right.
think like a little boy or a little girl imagining their Wonder Woman or Superman or Black Panther is so much more likely now because movies are big and they, like they show us like those aspects of it. So I think that's really exciting. I like when my kids, I've actually gotten them each of them have their own sketchbook, and I encourage them to draw or doodle in there or make comics. And they've all challenged each other constantly to come up with new superheroes, and they'll like make their costume.
That's
and then they have
awesome.
like what their strengths are and their
Yeah.
weaknesses are, and they have little names for them, and they're really cute. And I used to tell them like, one day when you have like enough comics, we can publish a book. And they never complete any of the stories. Like they'll start out with something and then they'll leave it and then they'll start something else.
So then you make it like a to be continued book and then let the reader continue the story in their imagination.
Oh, that's such a great idea. Yeah, I love that.
But you know what? As you said it, I have this podcast with you so I can steal all parenting advice and ideas. So I'm totally going to do that too. And then you're going to add Alyssa's addendum to yours, right?
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's the whole purpose.
Yeah.
That's the whole purpose, is to share these ideas, not just with each other, but also with our listeners, right?
Right,
And
right.
get some of our feedback back too.
I think that's great. I think that's really great that the kids do that. And then they have each other to compete and play off with, which you need a little competition. It's fun.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Samir didn't, I made a snowman today. He didn't even try because I was like, there's no competition. My snowman's better. But anyway. Okay, the truth is he was working all day and he was shoveling, so he couldn't do it. But that's not the point. I made the best snowman. It might have been the only snowman, but I made the best snowman.
But see, you prove the point again, because we said like creativity only happens when we create space for it. And so Samir just goes from homework to work, and he doesn't have time to like imagine some innovative snowman.
I posted it actually. Speaking of social media, that was the one thing I posted after months.
Oh, awesome. Okay. I'll have to go out there and look at it.
I got Allie to do the same pose as the snowman because well, it's actually a snow girl. We called her Anna. We gave her a bath. We made snow soap, and we made snow food for her. So it was quite fun today.
Oh, that's so cute.
That's why I crashed when I came home today. I was so tired.
That sounds like so much fun.
Yeah. Keep us posted on how it goes once Bhavneet has her account.
Oh, yeah, I absolutely will. I think we're going to sit down and talk to her about the guardrails around it first, just to make sure that we're on the same page. And then I also want to, well, I've talked about this before, both on the podcast and in real life, but I do a lot of role playing. I really feel strongly about being able to commit to something or follow through with something if you practice it.
Right.
And so I'm planning to do some role play with her. Like, what will you do if this happens?
That's good.
To be honest with you, 2 years ago when she started middle school, there was an incident in her middle school where a gym teacher was was on social media, but doing a personal message in social media. And I'll just quickly tell you the story so you kind of get a little bit of background on it. So he friended one of the students. She was another 6th grade student, and said like, "Oh, show me that beautiful face of yours." So she sent a picture of herself.
Wait, the 6th grader sent it to her teacher?
Yes, to a gym teacher. And then he said, "Oh, you're so beautiful. Show me more."
Oh my God.
And the girl had the wherewithal to, one, take a screenshot of that message, and 2, she went to her parents immediately. She told her friends, and she also went to her parents. They reported it. The teacher got immediately suspended. The cops came and everything. But my daughter heard about it through the social network grapevine. You go to school, a scandal like that happens, everybody knows about it. And it was one of her friends. And she told me about it, which I was really grateful for, because not all children would want to share that, especially if they have the aspiration of getting social media. Like, I'm really lucky that Pavneet trusts me and is honest with me, because in that scenario, she could have easily been like, "Oh, I'm not going to tell my mom because my mom will panic and then she'll never let me get social media." But she told me about it. And we talked through the response, and the girl responded the right way. And so I think she responded the right way because she knew how to respond, because she was prepared for it.
Right.
And so I'm going to be doing that. I'll be like going through different scenarios, like, what if this happens? What if that happens? And just coming off, like, in the last few weeks, we had our episodes about bullying. We know that bullying behavior occurs on social media quite a bit. We know that it can be subtle, and it can manifest itself in like pressure as well. And so I want to talk through all those things, but I think the answer will be yes once we talk through all the parameters and the guardrails.
And you know that also that she has good enough judgment. Like you said, she did tell you, and that means that should it happen to her, anything, she will do the right thing.
I want to believe that, but I also know that the world is a scary and confusing place, especially for a child. And so I don't want the onus to be on her. I don't want to put her in situations where we rely on her judgment alone.
I see what you're saying.
I trust her judgment, but I want to make it easy.
Right. It's both, right? I mean, part of it is her judgment, but part of it also come to you when there's, when you need guidance. Part of that judgment is to come to you,
Yes. Exactly.
So take that weight off, and at least not to be afraid to come to you, which she's already proven, I think, that she would not be afraid to come to you.
Right.
I get it. There's still a lot of things. I mean, there are certain parts of your brain that haven't even developed yet. And when you expose these kids so earlier, before they've developed, they are more likely to be addicted. That is a fact.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
So that's why I think you should just that's when you look at your own individual child, you as an individual, and whether this is a good move for you as a family.
Right. And so I have a charging station in our house. It's downstairs where all devices go at night to charge. Like, we don't put them by your bedside. The cute thing was that when she was laying out her argument, one of the points in her argument was like, every day at 8:30, my phone will be like in the charging station, and that will keep me from like, in case I have self-control issues. And I was kind of smiling. And then she was smiling because she saw that she hit one of the important notes for mom. She was like, boom, nailed it, the expression on her face.
Oh, yeah, she's excited.
So it was really awesome. So, but I'll definitely keep you up to date in
Yeah.
how things progress
Yeah.
with that. And
I'm glad you guys do that too, though. We have that too. Charging station. Phone's always there. Phones do not go in our room. So.
yeah, I do it. I'm not going to say that everybody in our house follows it. Me and the kids follow it very strictly.
Oh, yeah. Well, okay, fine. With that said, actually, Samir doesn't. But Samir, because of his alarm, he has a bazillion things, but I guess. But
Yeah.
I actually told Samir, let's get a landline. He's like, are you serious? And I was like, yes, because I don't want our phones in our room. So at least for an emergency, that landline's there. He thinks I'm crazy. Anyway, all right. Good time to wrap up.
That's funny. Okay, well, let's wrap up here. Thank you, Lisa, for the conversation. And thank you, listeners, for listening in. And we'll talk with you again soon.